Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. This year, 2022, more than any before it, exposed Nigeria's gulf in relationship between her political leadership and the citizens. Insecurity is still the order of the day. Defenseless Nigerians are still being shot on the streets by trigger-happy police officers. Millions are still queuing up to buy petrol, a product which more than often is hardly available, yet billions of liters of crude oil are being stolen daily. Today, sadly, there are way too many people in Nigeria, even though the government is implementing some bold social programs to reduce the number. The fact of the matter is that poverty is not just about money. There is poverty of health, and we know that health is wealth. There's also the issue of security, lack of basic infrastructure, not to mention cost of living, and of course, police brutality, where those who are meant to protect us have been overshadowed by those who terrorize us, making us hapless victims to their whims and caprices. Is the government doing enough to stem the flow of criminality? How much intervention is being made to provide succor to long-suffering Nigerians? Your guess is as good as mine. But regardless of all our challenges, regardless of all the obstacles thrust upon us, our huge population is and will always be a great advantage. It is not for nothing that God has put us together as a nation with the largest population of black people on earth. So for all Nigerians home and abroad, it's pertinent to ask ourselves if, regardless of the mind-boggling challenges we face on a daily basis, we are still willing to make this country a great one, or else all of us will keep pointing accusing fingers without moving forward. Let's focus on what we ourselves can achieve as individuals, rather than constantly complaining about the failure of our leaders. With the new year coming up, comes new beginnings. If the system doesn't work for us, we have to work around the system. Let us change our mindset and get more proactive, as we are already doing anyways. We have no choice but to continue to come up with ways of moving forward to the promised land. A land that is blessed with incredibly rich diversity of people, cultures, religions, and abundant mineral resources.
Absolutely. This year has been a historical one. A year many people rose up tall to understand the critical importance of citizenry participation in politics. From researching facts to campaigning to voting, ensuring good leadership, many of us now know, is the topmost responsibility of every progressive, patriotic citizen. Let's recap the most impactful events this year. In quarter one, Nigeria's GDP grew by at least 3% as ASU academic union strike heated up, demanding actionable answers as to why the federal government continues to massively fund foreign trips, but not education. In quarter two, a minimum of 35% women inclusion was ordered within the national judiciary, although the primary election outcomes did not reflect this ruling. Women continued to push hard to ensure greater merited representation in appointments and elections. In quarter three, presidential candidates emerged with an unusual third force gaining unprecedented momentum, as flooding and homelessness affected millions of Nigerians across the country. In quarter four, the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom returned colonially looted artifacts to Nigeria, as Nigeria's inflation hiked over 20% and fuel scarcity continues today. Across the country today, banditry and the rising cost of living hinder joy for most people. What tales will 2023 tell? Where are we headed? Let's start off by watching this special report, Perspectives. We'll be right back.
The year 2022 has been a year many will not forget in a hurry in Nigeria. From the persistent fuel crisis, insecurity, and a dire economy, there is no doubt that there is a lot that needs to be corrected. With Nigeria's 2023 general elections just weeks away, the country will be choosing a new leader. The new president will immediately confront an exhausting array of challenges, from multiple complex security crises to a disastrous, mismanaged economy. But there are some reasons for optimism that the upcoming polls will be an improvement on the 2019 election. First, President Muhammadu Buhari has strongly signaled that he wants a credible, transparent electoral process to be an important part of his legacy. Legal reforms enable earlier planning, and new technology has been deployed to improve voter accreditation and the transmission of results. A surge of new voter registrations, especially amongst young people, suggests that Nigerians believe the 2023 elections are a process worth their time and energy. But political violence continues to bedevil the country. Amongst its worrisome manifestations are the attacks on offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, which clearly aims to undermine the electoral process itself. As much as there are a number of issues that needs to be sorted, what are the wins we recorded in the year 2022 as a nation? One will be the signing into law of the Petroleum Industry Act and the Electoral Act 2022. The latter has given Nigerians hope that the coming election will be free and fair. One of the changes under the new Electoral Act includes a provision for Central Electronic Voter Database. This provision is laudable as it will promote transparency and effectiveness in the Commission's record keeping and in tracking the number of registered voters who will be voting in the upcoming elections, thereby curbing illegal voting by non-registered voters. The technological changes in the new electoral process under the new Act is a laudable effort to keep the Nigerian electoral process up to standard with that of other democratic countries all over the world. More so, as the country approaches the 2023 general elections. It is only hoped that the provisions of this Act are judiciously implemented to enable Nigerians enjoy the exercise of their political franchise before and after the 2023 general elections. So, as Africa's most populous country, largest economy, and most notable democracy, Nigeria is a bellwether for the continent. And getting the nation back to her glory days is something the next leader should endeavor to achieve. Kingsley, Arise News.
That's an interesting thing.
Absolutely.
You know, but I know that well, this is a time of elections. We're looking for the best leader. We're looking for the person that would win and that is deserving of it. But I think aside from the three major contenders, we also have to look at the characteristics of the person that's going to be our future leader. What are his antecedents? How successful was he as a business person before getting into politics? Because I think the way you run your business is also the way you would run Nigeria as a whole, you know. And I think they have to work on earning the trust of the youth. It's not just enough telling us all these rhetorics, I will do this, I will do that, I'll do that. Anybody can do that. Anybody can say that. But what we are hoping for is a president that has a conscience, that can't sleep at night until he knows that he has put a smile on the faces of his people.
I like that point.
That will take it so personal when every time our bells are being tightened and we're being charged for more than what we can afford. I mean, can you imagine on Christmas Day, people queuing for petrol? Mm-hmm. People can't buy rice. The streets were literally empty. Mm. Do you understand? We want a president who is compassionate. Absolutely. Not just saying the right things and putting square plugs in square holes, round plugs in round holes. Somebody that really feels the pain. Absolutely. That it runs through his veins every time a Nigerian comes out to complain.
You said an important point when you said we want a president that literally cannot sleep at night. Until there's change, until your people are happy, until we're seeing progress, until the educational system is giving Nigerians what we deserve. I mean, when we discussed this topic and said we wanted to discuss Vision 2023, I think we were both like very enthusiastic about this topic, both very passionate. You know, you want a better Nigeria, that's where your mind is, and it was a no-brainer that we would discuss this on New Year's Eve. So it's a big episode for us.
And we're hoping this would also be And with our guests coming in, we also hope that they would give some words of encouragement. It's not all about doom. There's still promise. This is a land full of milk and honey.
Yes.
This is a land blessed with a rich culture.
Highest
blessed
potential
with numbers.
land.
So much potential. So
Absolutely.
we want to encourage Nigerians.
Absolutely.
That apart from the fact that yes, it looks bleak.
We can't downplay
There's
the
light.
bleak sides.
Yeah, but there should be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's what this conversation.
Are we entering 2023 with low electricity, scarcity?
No matter how bad, we want a light at the end of the tunnel.
We absolutely do.
Anyway, we are heading for a short break, but stay with us because when we return, we shall meet our distinguished guest, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, political economist, lawyer, and former Deputy Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. Professor Kingsley Moghalu is the founder and president of the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation, an influential public policy think tank. A political economist and lawyer, Professor Moghalu is a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, a former senior official of the United Nations, and was also a presidential candidate in the 2019 general election. Great to have you here, Professor.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Olaterora.
You're looking very fresh, so obviously New Year's doing you well.
Yes, indeed.
That's good to hear. Anyway, Kingsley, let's start. Nowadays, one cannot but wonder if Nigeria is cursed or jinxed. We fear that we might not witness a better Nigeria in our lifetime. Politics, as you well know, is a very slippery and extremely frustrating terrain that's about the survival of the fittest, which doesn't necessarily equate to merit or record of personal achievements. With this in mind, what key characteristic traits should Nigerians look out for to separate the wheat from the chaff when choosing the right leader to rescue Nigeria from the brinks of collapse?
Well, thank you. I think, first of all, I will start with the question of character. Character is a very basic aspect of leadership. You have to have somebody who has the kind of character that can actually lead Nigeria into a more progressive and prosperous future. If you are electing someone who has basic good character, not an angel, you will not find that in politics, but basic good character, then the chance is that that person making decisions will make decisions in the interest of the citizens of the country, in the interest of the country as a whole. You talked about a president or a leader who will not sleep easily at night, knowing the conditions of poverty in our country, knowing the insecurity in our country. That's something that is very important, character. Now, on top of character, you need a leader who is visionary, who has a vision of where he or she would like to lead the country to in the next 4 years, 8 years, or where Nigeria should be in 16 years or 20 years, and begin to lay the foundation for it. That visionary that visionary aspect of leadership is really, really essential. And I hope that Nigerians, look very carefully at that. You also need a leader who has a track record of competence and performance in whatever he or she has done, whether he or she has been a politician, a public servant, or a businessman. It doesn't really matter. But you need a certain type of consistency of performance over many years. And part of that comes back to character, because when you have a certain type of character, then you aspire to excellence. And you're bothered if you don't have excellence around you. So this is a very important thing. Beyond this, we need to understand what the job of the president involves. You see, you cannot apply for a job.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. There's some breaking news that we need to announce immediately, and we'll come right back to you, I promise. Sorry about that. News just reaching us says former Pope Benedict the 16th has died at his Vatican residence at the age of 95, almost a decade after he stepped down on the ground of ailing health. He led the Catholic Church for less than 8 years until in 2013. He became the first pope to resign since George the 12th in 1415. Benedict spent his final years at the Mater Ecclesiae monastery with the walls of the Vatican. His successor, Pope Francis, said he had visited him there frequently. The Vatican said in a statement, "With sorrow, I inform you that the Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI passed away today at 9:34 in the Mater Ecclesiae monastery in the Vatican. The Vatican said the body of the Pope Emeritus will be placed in St. Peter's Basilica from the 2nd of January for the greeting of the faithful. Plans for Pope Benedict's funeral will be announced in the next few hours." Thank you so much. So, Kingsley, sorry about that brief interlude.
That's an important
we had to make,
news
yes,
item.
yes. May his soul rest in
he-
peace.
Yeah, may his soul rest in peace. So
Okay, go ahead.
I was saying that we also need to understand what the functions of the role of the president are. Many Nigerians vote for presidents as a political promotion. I have been a governor. I have been a senator. I have been this or that in politics. And, therefore, I can become the president. That is not enough. If it was enough, Nigeria would have gone much farther than where we are today. Yes. So, I think the job of the president involves, number one, national security. Number two, nation building. Number three, the economy. And number four, foreign affairs. So you want candidates or a candidate who has a very strong understanding across these four areas, and if possible, some experience in at least two or three of them. That's what I think we should be looking for. But we have a problem with leadership selection in Nigeria because our people are mainly illiterate and poor. And so they respond to the wrong kind of stimuli, which is money. Sometimes maybe ethnic or other sectarian identity issues, and that happens in many parts of the world too. But the most important thing is that they are too poor and too illiterate to really understand the issues and select the right kind of leaders. Those who understand are too few, don't vote frequently enough, and even they themselves may be compromised. I mean, the leadership mess Nigeria is in today has actually been inflicted by people who went to school, but they passed through school, but many of them, the school didn't pass through them.
Okay. Dr. Moghalu, you're right that poverty is being used as a weapon to,
Absolutely.
strangle Nigerians in terms of leadership and government. You recently announced that you would not be running for office again, and this came as a shock to me and possibly to many others. I mean, you saw my reply, I was like, wow, full stop. I mean, at a time when Nigerians are clamoring for the very best leaders to continue to play the strongest roles in leading us forward, it comes as a shock that one of the leaders who Nigerians have believed in, who has the experience, who has the capability, and who has the passion for greater Nigeria, says that he would not be running for office again. So my question to you is, what prompted this? And you ran for office 2019, you attempted to run 2023. What do you think you did differently between those two terms? And what could you have done differently to actually get the ticket progressively this year?
Well, thank you. I mean, those are all a very big barrel of questions. But I just want to explain to you that, first of all, I'm not God. I do not know what the future holds for me. But as an individual, I think I can make decisions about my own life. And I have had some very deep introspection about my own personal situation, my family. I have considered my family in these decisions. I have considered the political terrain in Nigeria, the impact that my running in 2019 has made, which is undeniable. No question in my mind about it. I don't mean to be immodest. But also, what is the realistic chance of achieving the ultimate prize at this time? Are Nigerians ready for real change? Do you have the currency of Nigerian politics, which is mostly ill-gotten wealth? You know, many politicians in Nigeria appropriate state resources and use it to campaign. I was a deputy governor of the central bank. I did not touch one penny that did not belong to me. So, you know, and I have, most of my life has been in public service in the United Nations, in the central bank as a professor. So where is that pot of gold? You know, 10 billion naira that I can use to run a presidential. Do you understand? When when the terrain is practically a money guzzler. So that's the first, you know, practical consideration that one should have. And so I decided that perhaps the time has come for me not to back out of Nigeria's affairs, no, but to reposition myself, you know, from a non-partisan perspective and continue to make my contributions rather than saying that I must run for elective office. You see, that's the reason I have made this decision. And, you know, in 2023, like you said, I tried to get the ticket, but it didn't work out. But I look at it personally as God's intervention because God loves me. Because from what I am seeing now, I can tell you that I'm very relieved not to be in this race.
Oh, wow.
Especially, especially if you don't have the financial resources. People are not contributing those resources to support you, including all the people who are hailing you and saying you're such a great leader. But, you know, you don't go into a gunfight with a knife. You don't do that. You know, if people say they want you, then they must do something to show that is very practical. I mean, if 1 million or 2 million people contribute 1,000 naira or 2,000, 2K, it will come to about 5 billion. That's a significant pot of resources to engage with. You know, if people who are wealthy say, okay, we believe this man has a vision, we will all put out 50 million naira for him, that's another way. But if none of those things is happening because people feel that, you have to be in a major party, maybe APC or PDP, and so on and so forth, then the leadership selection window becomes very narrow and may not necessarily yield what Nigeria needs at this time. So it's about the level at which the electorate is. You have to factor that in. Now, you talked about between 2019 and 2023. What did I learn? One of the things that if I had gone forward in 2023, my politics would have been mainly structural. What I learned in 2019 is that popularity is not enough to win an election. You can be popular, but you may not win because you are not strongly organized on the ground, at the grassroots, you know, where it matters, at the polling units. A lot of my votes in 2019 were lost because we did not have polling agents. And again, this came back to the matter of resources, you see? So you have to be very practical. I've taken a very practical decision. It's, you know, I mean, you expose yourself to a lot of risks in running for elections, physical risks, safety risks, health risks, all those kinds of things. And so, you know, I had to just take a very practical decision and say, look, you also sacrifice a lot. Like I said in the note I put out, nobody knows, only I know the price I have paid, the sacrifice I have made in my political journey. Many opportunities have been denied to me, especially because I went into politics from the opposition. You see? So if you don't have an immediate or medium-term likelihood of success, you might want to return to a more professional life and make your contributions from there while you make your living legitimately and decently. So this is, like I said, you know, the structures matter. If you say that the structures are evil structures that exist today and they're fueled by poverty and vote buying, that may be true, but it is possible to create a good structure Not a bad structure, but a good structure. Structure is a matter of organization. It's not about whether it's good or bad. So if you think the structures that exist before are bad, you can create a good structure down to every polling unit. 176,000 polling units in the country. That's the kind of structure that will win you a presidential election. In my view, this is what I learned from experience.
That's interesting. That's interesting, Mr. Moghalu. Like you rightfully said, as they say in our local parlance, the person where he wears shoe, now you know as a pinner for leg. Am I correct?
Exactly. You're very correct.
Those who wear his shoes knows how it hurts. But we're going for a break right now, and then we'll come right back to you and continue from where you left off. We'll see you in a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives, where we're talking to Dr. Kingsley Moghalu. So, Dr. Kingsley, are you still with us? We want to continue with the interview.
I am very much with you.
Yes, I see that you're really, really prepped up, huh? Don't worry.
Absolutely. This is a very important topic.
Yes, it is. And at the end of the day, we do hope for a better Nigeria. That's what we're really praying for.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you know.
Yes. No, that's our hope. But I want you to know that hope is not a strategy.
Oh, well, however you look at it. We know you hear English. Just hope for a better Nigeria, bottom line. But let me quickly ask you, as a former presidential aspirant, you're well aware that any incoming president will be faced with a myriad of issues when he resumes office. In seeking solutions, from your experience, what banana peels should the president avoid? And in order of priorities, which issues need to be immediately addressed once he resumes office? How best can he hit the floor running to make maximum impact in the shortest time possible?
Well, thank you. The two most important immediate ingredients that will determine the success or failure of a president coming in is, one, the team that the president assembles. Nobody can do this job alone. You need an A-list team. For given where Nigeria is today, we're in really deep whatever. No question about it. So that's number one, the team. Number two is that you have to have the political will to do the reforms that are necessary for Nigeria to begin to change. So between these two things, then you need an ability to build the consensus around the actions that the leader needs to take to begin to move Nigeria forward, because some of those decisions will affect vested interests. You asked about banana peels. Let me tell you a thing or two about bananas and their peels. They are littered everywhere in Nigeria because what we have at this stage is a country, but not a nation. Because we are not able to have a nation, there's no unity of purpose. There's no common vision. There's no common destination we all agree with. And that is why the question of what Nigeria means to each and every one of us, what is Nigeria? And what does it mean to me and you? It's a question that must be addressed very early by the next leader, because the country is broken. The country is divided. And when a country is divided like that, it doesn't matter what you say. People are walking across purposes. People are pulling each other down like crabs in a basket. And therefore, you may have good intentions, but it may not come to pass. So building consensus, creating a vision that all of us can agree with, addressing the matter of constitutional restructuring of Nigeria so that Nigeria can work. One of the major reasons the country doesn't work, and one of the major reasons it is so divided, is because of constitutional issues. We are not agreed on what Nigerian is. And unless and until you address that question, you're not able to set up a proper foundation for the long-term success of Nigeria. Kicking the can down the road, as many leaders have done, is just the wrong thing to do. So, the team, you need a competent team. The next leader must be able to know where to play politics and where to stop playing politics. When it comes to certain things, maybe the management of the economy, it's not about politics. It's not about what political party anybody belongs to or used to belong to, or whether the person does not belong to any political party. What the next leader should be looking at is a very strong team of competent hands
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
managing the security of Nigeria and managing the economy of Nigeria. Poverty is a very big issue.
Charles, Kingsley, come back. Oh, we need you here. You have to come and work in the next dispensation. We need you here. But thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being with us, Dr.
Well, thank you.
Moghalu.
Thank you, Dr.
And we wish
Moghalu.
we had more time to spend with you, but we hope that your speech today has given some form of encouragement to any of the youth watching this program as we speak. Thank you so much, Charles, for being with us.